Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the F1 Word. Now, in case you somehow missed it, Christian Horner was sacked as Red Bull team principal and CEO earlier this week. It was an announcement that caught almost everyone off guard as his 20-year reign at the team came to an end, pending any expected gardening leave at least. Horner was the longest-serving team boss on the grid prior to his dismissal, which speaks volumes about largely the impressive job he had done at the team across those 2 decades, but it also speaks volumes about the significant turnover of Formula One team principals in recent seasons. In fact, thanks to the recent shuffle across the Red Bull teams, half of the team bosses on the grid have only been in the role since the start of this year. So given all the news this week and the question marks lingering over the future of some others, most notably Fred Vasseur at Ferrari, let's take a look at all of the sport's current team bosses and how long they've held on to their positions. By the way, I'll admit this is as much for me as it is for you because I'm losing track of it all. And because I love to build the tension, even though most of you will know who tops this list, we'll go in ascending order, shortest serving to longest serving, sort of. That means we start with Alain Permain, who was confirmed as the new team principal at Racing Bull soon after the news of Horner's exit and his successor's promotion was announced. After more than 2 decades at Enstone and through the many guises the operation had, Permain left the organisation midway through the 2023 season, actually one of 2 senior departures alongside Otmar Safnauer. He quickly found a new home after that as he was appointed racing director of Racing Bulls in time for the 2024 season, before, as mentioned, he was promoted to team principal earlier this week. I've already pretty much spoiled this one, but Laurent Mekies was announced as Christian Horner's successor at Red Bull shortly before Permain was given his new role. It was an internal promotion of sorts for Mekies, who, prior to his shock promotion, had been team principal of Racing Bulls, where he'd taken over from the legend Franz Tost following the Austrian's retirement at the end of 2023, and has actually overseen a strong start to the current season for the outfit. He took on the role after leaving Ferrari, where he served as deputy team principal alongside his duties as racing director at Maranello, Mekies becoming only the 2nd team principal at the sister team, and coincidentally now only the 2nd team principal at the main Red Bull outfit, as well as taking on the role of CEO as already mentioned. It's a big job, and to be fair, pretty big shoes to fill with a lot of pressure on his shoulders already. First job for Mekies? He's got to encourage Max Verstappen to commit to the team for next season. Otherwise, his job is going to become infinitely more difficult. Who knows where Red Bull would be without the Dutchman? Well, based on the here and now, probably rock bottom. Next up, it is the confusing mess that is Alpine. Oliver Oakes, who was only appointed by the team back in July 2024, resigned shortly following the 2025 Miami Grand Prix. Yes, that's less than a year in the role. Personal reasons was the official line from Alpine executive advisor Flavio Briatore for Oakes' exit. Yeah, and following that development, Briatore would assume the Brit's responsibilities as he returned to the helm of the team which he previously led to championship glory under their Benetton and Renault identities. And of course, the team he ran during the infamous Crashgate scandal. Not officially team principal, but as good as, and let's be honest, whatever role he holds and whoever thinks they run the team, there's only really one man in charge. However, and this is why I struggled on where to place him on this list, so I'll lump this in with Flav whilst I'm talking about him. Since Briatore took on the responsibility left by Oakes, it has been announced that Steve Nielsen will be the new managing director of Alpine from September 1st this year. A stalwart, love that word, of the F1 paddock, Nielsen joins from Formula One Management, where he'd worked as sporting director for the organisation. So technically Nielsen would be the most recent team boss, but he hasn't started yet, so he can go here with Flavio. Good appointment this, by the way, in my opinion. A ton of experience and has even worked with Briatore before, so potentially at least a good relationship there. Let's see how he gets on and, critically, how long he lasts. After all, given the reported conversations in the past between Alpine and Christian Horner, his sudden availability, post-gardening leave anyway, immediately piles pressure on Nielsen, and Briatore won't hesitate in swinging the axe again if he can convince Horner to join and Nielsen doesn't deliver. It is now also possible the plan will be for Nielsen to be the stopgap, but let's not write the poor guy off before he's even started. Jonathan Wheatley was another high-profile Red Bull exit in mid-2024 as he made the switch to take over the team principal role at Sauber, who of course will become Audi in 2026. Wheatley officially took up his new position with the existing Sauber team on April 1st this year. That's 2025 if you're watching this in the future, and just days ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. Now, at time of recording, Wheatley will be very happy with how things are going because the team is on fire right now and have just helped Nico Hulkenberg to take his first career podium thanks to his P3 finish in Silverstone. There are, of course, no such things as guarantees in Formula One, but Red Bull have really lost out here. Wheatley would have been the perfect man to step up and lead the team in the post-Horner era, but I'm sure he'll be happy enough with how things are going at Sauber and be excited for the future with Audi. Aston Martin announced an organisational restructure in 2025 that confirmed Andy Cowell, who began a new role as Group CEO at the team 2 months beforehand, would take on a dual role of CEO and team principal. Previous boss Mike Crack would remain with the team in a revised role of Chief Trackside Officer, meaning Crack would still lead on the trackside operations at race weekends, but Cowell would take on overall responsibility as team principal moving forward, with the team confirming this was a move, and I quote, for clarity of leadership and as part of a shift to a flatter structure within the company. I think it's safe to say it's not been an easy start for Cowell at Aston Martin, no doubt about that. But with Adrian Newey now on board, full focus is on 2026, and that will be the real test for him and where he will ultimately be judged. Io Komatsu succeeded Gunther Steiner at Haas ahead of the 2024 season, becoming only their second team principal since their arrival in the sport. Komatsu had been with the team as trackside engineer director to that point, having joined in their debut season, following Roman Grosjean to the operation from Enstone. There, he'd worked as a race engineer, first with Vitaly Petrov and then with Grosjean in 2012, and was eventually promoted to chief race engineer. Komatsu is another team boss who seems to have pulled a team back onto the right track and is rightly receiving a lot of praise for the job he's done since taking on the role. It was the announcement of Jos Capito's Williams departure which served as the initial shock in that 2023 team boss silly season. The confirmation that he and Williams' technical director FX de Maison were both leaving had not been expected at all. The team would move to appoint James Vowles, who left his role as Mercedes strategy chief to become a team principal for the first time with Williams, and has since set about a full sweep of improving the infrastructure in place at the team, with a view to putting them back at the top table of Formula One in the coming years. And the outfit is clearly making moves in the right direction for the most part since Vowles' arrival. Vowles, of course, also extending his stay with the team in June this year. Andreas Stella took over from Andreas Seidel after he left McLaren, Stella getting a promotion from racing director to team principal. Although given how much we see of him, you'd be forgiven for thinking Zak Brown, McLaren CEO, was the team principal, but no, officially it is Stella. In fairness though, and jokes aside, the two of them have done an incredible job at turning the team around and bringing them back to being world champions, having clinched the Constructors' title in 2024, their first since 1998, and it's a title they look set to retain this year. And unless something remarkable happens, they will take their first driver's crown since 2008 as well, as Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris go head to head. Safe to say he's looking good to stay in that job for the long term, isn't he, given that success and the fact he signed a contract extension last summer, but he's potentially got his work cut out in the second half of 2025, with his drivers trying to beat each other to the title. Maybe he could give Ron Dennis a call and ask for some tips on how to manage that sort of situation. After all, the team has been here before and with far more explosive teammate rivalries. Now, Fred Vasseur left Alfa Romeo in December 2022 to take over as Ferrari boss following Mattia Binotto's announcement that he would resign from the role at the end of that year. Vasseur's appointment made him Ferrari's first non-Italian team boss since 2007, at which time Vasseur's fellow Frenchman Jean Todt was preparing to hand over the reins to Stefano Domenicali. Vasseur had a decent start to life at the Scuderia, and there was a lot of positivity around the decision to appoint him and the work he seemed to be doing to help turn the team around, at least behind the scenes. However, despite, relatively speaking, narrowly missing out on the Constructors' title in 2024, Ferrari have suffered a very underwhelming first half of this season, which has led to a lot of speculation about his future, speculation that has been battered away by the team, the drivers and Vasseur himself. Hopefully, though, he'll at the very least get to see out the season and be given a chance to prove he can turn things around. He is a hugely experienced boss, commands massive respect in the paddock, knows how to play the political game in F1, and in my view at least deserves to be given the time he needs to try and get the Scuderia back to the top of Formula One. And finally, you all know where this is going, but with Horner's exit, Toto Wolff now becomes the longest serving team boss on the grid, and it's not even close. He entered the sport initially as a co-owner of the Williams team, but went on to buy a stake in the Mercedes outfit too, and then left Williams in January of 2013, albeit remaining a co-owner at the time, to take over as executive director at Mercedes. Building on the foundations laid by Ross Brawn, Wolff oversaw Mercedes' domination as they claimed 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships between 2014 and 2021, plus 7 Drivers' Championships on the bounce from 2014 to 2020, a run of success F1 had not seen before. Despite a drop-off in more recent years, Wolff's job seems pretty secure, no doubt helped by the fact he owns a third of the team, and so it may be a while before he gives up his place at the top of this list, and probably not until he chooses to walk away. There we have it then. Those are your current team bosses and how long they've served in their current roles. But let me know in the comments down below who you think is most at risk of getting the boot, or even who might find themselves getting poached by another team in the next few days, weeks and months. And also, where do you think Christian Horner will end up following his Red Bull exit? Now, I will be back on Tuesday with that Nico Hulkenberg podium video I initially wanted to put out today. But in the meantime, please do leave a like before you go and consider subscribing too so you don't miss any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.